G'day guys, it's an exciting day. We've got a brand new N80 Hilux on the dyno. This thing's known as an N80 Gen 3, meaning that it's got the new revised engine with the better cylinder head and the bigger turbocharger and the new engine management system. The reason I'm so excited today is we get to use the brand new Just Auto's Easytune software. So they've developed this brand new tuning software for the N80, the Gen 3 engine management system. Happens to be in this N80 Hilux, as well as the 300 series Land Cruiser. So what's fantastic about this new software that Just Autos have developed, it gives us full control over the engine management system in these brand new Toyotas. That means it gives us high-speed data logging. It allows us to do a whole bunch of service functions. We can do things like enable a torque converter lockup kit, a high-speed and a low-speed torque converter lockup. And most importantly, we can take control of the engine management system to make this thing go like it should. The beauty of the Easytune system is being able to collaborate with the world-class diesel tuners that we can find all over Australia. The guys have developed this Easytune software where what we do is plug it into the OBD port of the car. We read the data out of the engine management system that gives us all of our trims and tells us exactly how your car's been running. We can then either modify that or we can choose to work in collaboration with a company like Just Autos that we can send all of that information to. They'll configure all of that engine management system for your specific car, for your specific requirements. They'll then add in the low speed and high speed torque converter lockup kit all in the software. So there's no cutting of wiring, nothing at all like that. All right, so the first step, I'm gonna pop the ignition on. I'm opening my Easytune software. I'm gonna go Vehicle Connect. Okay, so this tells me the VIN of the car, the engine management system that's in it, a whole bunch of details. I'll go okay. It connects. I'll go tuning request. I'll go down here and I'm gonna make a request to either Easytune or to Just Autos. I'm gonna make a request to Just Autos and I'm gonna write here N80, which I don't need to do too much there because the software already relays that it's an N80 Hilux. It relays the VIN, all of the security information, the firmware or the code that's in the engine management system already, and all the running and operating details already. So as soon as I hit quick request, that's going to download the file out of this engine management system. It'll send all of the information that's been collected from the dyno. I'll give the guys at Just Autos a quick ring, just to have a chat about the car, let them know exactly what's going on, what type of car it is, how we're going to be using the car, any modifications that have been done to it. This thing's got a Manta exhaust system on it. Other than that, it's got a bigger set of tyres. Then they're going to tailor make that software for this particular model car. And then it'll be as simple as it popping up in my Easytune as a tune ready, and I get to go, right, it'll load that software straight into this car and we're ready to rock and roll. Because I've been using the Easytune software, I also know that the firmware engineers up there at Just Autos get text messages and email notifications on their phone as soon as a tuning request's been made. So you know that you get their full attention as soon as you press that button. But before anything, we've got to run this thing up in factory form on the dyno so that we've got our baseline or our control figures. We know exactly how much power it's making at the wheels factory, so that when our tuning request gets fulfilled, that file turns up and we load it in, we'll have something to compare against. So we've just done our reference runs. These N80 Gen 3 Hiluxes really do pack a punch. This thing's making 118-ish kilowatts, give or take, at the wheels, which is a similar amount of power to what an early series N80 would have made as a tuned car. They've got a hell of a lot more power out of the box, and they've got a hell of a lot more headroom to make more power. So this is where the fun part starts. If we come across to the screen here, I'll show you a bit through the Easytune software. So first of all, here's the flash interface. This same software, I can read and clear any trouble codes that the car's got. I've got my data logging interface. That's what I'm going to be using in a little bit, and that's what I've just been using to make sure this car is running as factory the way that it was intended to make sure I'm not going to be sort of trying to band-aid any trouble. I've got OBD functions. So this one is a SCV relearn, a suction control valve relearn. This is handy if you have just replaced the suction control valve in the engine. Again, a really new car, so I wouldn't expect to do this, but as the Easytune software progresses, this is where we'll be recoding injectors. We'll be doing all sorts of factory style reset functions in here. Live tuning. So this is another function that we can use to do live tuning of different tables. We're not doing it on this particular car. This is also actually where you would build a multi-map system. So we can use this in order to have a winch idle up, a factory style setting, a tow mode, a full power mode, and like a launch control mode. We do that using the cruise control buttons. So you can go up and down through the cruise control stalk and go to number 1 on the tacho, or if we pull on the cruise stalk, while we're sitting there at idle, it'll go number 2, number 3, number 4, or whatever the case. That'll tell us which engine tune that the car's in. We can also set up like an immobilizer function. So if you configure that in a particular way, the car will turn off and it won't be able to restart again until you use that to put us back into the right sort of selection. The next one across is our read option. This is where we can read the factory file out of the ECU and the factory file for the transmission, just so we've got copies of both of them on the server. That's always a really good idea to have a backup. But the fun part of this, flash ECU, we go back to this one, device tunes, there's a little exclamation mark there telling me something's going on. And look at that, there we go. So just autos have delivered. Here's one here that tells us that it's a stage 1 tune with the easy lock. So easy lock is the one where if we use the eco mode and the power mode buttons here, we'll either have a low speed or a high speed lockup. So that means that the torque converter will lock up at very low speeds, really good for forward driving, or above 80 kilometers an hour, really good for towing your caravan or your heavy boat or whatever the case. So that'll give us full engine power. I'm gonna select that one, click, turn our ignition on, cross my fingers, and here we go. Before flashing any engine management system, it's really important to not bump anything. Really respect this process because this is where things can go pear-shaped. If your laptop battery goes flat, if you pull out a USB cord, if you kick the OBD connector, if you are slamming doors and opening and closing. So now is the time to just sit, relax, do absolutely nothing until this process is finished. Flash completed successfully. Okay, so now we need to turn the ignition off, turn it back on again. I love this bit. Complete flash. Once the ECU has been reflashed, often you'll get diagnostic trouble codes or DTCs because when you're reflashing the engine management system, it loses communication with the rest of the car. So it's normally good practice to finish the flash, then go online with your scan tool, erase all of the codes, then fire the engine up. What these guys have done, they've built it into the flash process. So once the flash is complete, as soon as you press OK, it clears the codes for you. So we're ready to rock and roll. The only thing left to do is to now do some power runs. We'll use our data logging function on that first power run, and I'll run you through what happens after the very first power run to look through that data logging. Well, I'm bloody excited about the results, but before we go over and look at the dyno sheet, I just wanted to quickly show you through this stuff. You don't really need to know a lot about this unless you're really interested in the data. I can see all of my important information. I can see my engine speed. I can see how much fuel's going on. I can see my boost pressures and all my temperatures and my turbo outlet temperatures and how that turbocharger is operating. But more special than that, it takes someone a long time to figure out what all these numbers are supposed to look like, what all these shapes are supposed to do. So built into the software is the inspector. Check this out. Errors. There's no errors. So all that stuff was within range while that was running. There's no warnings. Then there's the success page. So along here, this is telling me all of the things that are all within range within this tune-up. So quickly and easily, I can take a sneak peek at this and okay, no errors, no warnings, everything was successful, and there's no data to be reported upon within this car, this tune, this setup. So it gives me supreme confidence to say, yes, this tune-up is good, this car is good, it's making good power, it's ready to go out the door. Well, it's certainly easy to talk about all the graphs and all of the charts, but let's get out, look at the dyno sheet and show what this has actually done in the real world to this Hilux. More power, more torque. That's really what this is all about. So first of all, we've got our blue run here. This was our initial cold run. So the engine was sort of cold, nothing was heat soaked yet. And we're gonna talk about at 100 kilometers an hour, it was making about 115 kilowatts at the wheels, 450 newton meters. Then, once we sort of did 3 runs, it got heat soaked and it started making 110 kilowatts at the wheels and about 430 newton meters at the wheels. It'll do that consistently, so that's kind of like our base numbers. Once the thing's tuned at 100 kilometers an hour, so instead of 110 or 115 kilowatts, it's now making 147 kilowatts. It's gone from, say, 450 newton meters at the wheels to 580 newton meters at the wheels. This means that when you're on the freeway towing your caravan at 100 kilometers an hour, you've got so much more grunt. You've got almost 40 kilowatts at the wheels as a gain. You've got 130 newton meters more power at the wheels just from a tune-up. If I bring the dyno down here somewhere and say at 2700 RPM, instead of making 35, 40 kilowatts at the wheels or 200 newton meters, it's now making 120 kilowatts and 650 newton meters. We've pulled that whole power band all the way down, so you really want to have that power underfoot all the time. And that's exactly what this is doing. A really, really great result from just a tune-up. I couldn't recommend this as a modification for your turbo diesel any higher. So if you've got a new N80 Hilux or a 300 series Land Cruiser, give the guys at Just Autos a call. They'll put you onto your local specialist who'll be able to do this accredited work, who'll be able to get the most power and the most reliability out of your new Toyota. Of course, any other diesel stuff, please feel free, drop us a message and we'll get back to you just as soon as we can.